Hello, BookTube. I've got a small stack of new arrivals for you, stuff that was opened off camera, but still might be of interest to you, even though you don't have the Christmas morning thrill of vicariously opening my mail with me. I've got a stack of books that I want to show you. Some are out already, some are forthcoming, and some, as I always say with these new arrival videos, might be more interesting to you than to me. So I figure you should know that they're out there and see them. We'll examine them together. Just in case you want to put one of these on your list. So the first one is coming out in October, so it's a long way off. This is from the folks at W.W. Norton, and this is by Joseph Luzzi, and it is Botticelli's Secret: The Lost Drawings and the Rediscovery of the Renaissance. So this comes out in October. What do we got here? Some 500 years ago, Sandro Botticelli was commissioned by a member of Florence's powerful Medici family to execute a near-impossible project: to illustrate all 100 cantos of the Divine Comedy by Dante, the ultimate visual homage to that divine poet. Yet after a lifetime of creating masterpieces, including Primavera and The Birth of Venus, Sandro Botticelli declined into poverty and obscurity. His Dante project remained unfinished. Then the drawings vanished for over 400 years until their rediscovery in the 19th century. Anyone check Tom's apartment? A combination of artistic detective story and rich intellectual history, Joseph Luzzi's brilliantly conceived and executed Botticelli's Secret shows not only how the Renaissance came to life, but also how Botticelli's art helped to bring it about, and, most important, why we need the Renaissance and all that it stands for today. And I could swear that Joseph Luzzi did a book on Dante. Yes, In a Dark Wood, What Dante Taught Me About Grief, Healing, and the Mysteries of Love. So this author has already written about Dante. Now he's writing about an illustrator of Dante. So that's a book on the Renaissance and Botticelli and Dante. So what have we got here that's next? What is this next one? This comes out in November. I think this will be a hardcover. This is by Israel Knoll, and it is The Messiah Confrontation: Pharisees versus Sadducees and the Death of Jesus. When do you hear this? The Messiah Confrontation casts new and fascinating light on why Jesus was killed. Grounded in meticulous research on the messianism debates in the Bible and during the Second Temple period, biblical scholar Israel Knoll argues that Jesus' trial was in reality a dramatic clash between two Jewish groups holding opposing ideologies on messianism and anti-messianism, with both ideologies running through the Bible. The Pharisees, fathers of the rabbinic sages, and most of the Jewish people had a conception of a Messiah similar to Jesus. Like the prophets and most psalmists, they expected the arrival of a godlike Messiah. However, the judges who sentenced Jesus to death were Sadducees, who were fighting with the Pharisees largely because they repudiated the Messiah idea. Thus, the trial of Jesus was not a clash between Jewish and what would become Christian doctrines, but a confrontation between two internal Jewish positions, expecting a Messiah or rejecting the Messiah idea, in which Jesus and the Pharisees were actually on the same side. You can see why I want to read this right away. I'll wait a while, but I wanted you to know it was coming. The author contends that had the assigned judges been Pharisees rather than Sadducees, Jesus would not have been convicted and crucified. The Pharisees' disagreement with Jesus was solely over whether Jesus was the Messiah, but historically for Jews, arguing about who was or wasn't the Messiah was not uncommon. So this comes out in November. It's right up my alley. Exactly the sort of thing I want to read. Then this next one is Maritime History. Always fun. Always a sweet tooth of mine. This is out already. This came out in June. It's got some paperwork in it. Let me get that under control. Let's see if we have anything convenient to read here. Do we have anything convenient to read? Well, the book is by Stephen Orsini, and it is Nightmare on the Scotty, the maiden voyage of a doomed king crabber. I want to find a sheet here that gives me the best summary. Well, this ought to do. Until they finished the Scotty in December 1969, Mobile, Alabama's Bender shipyard had never constructed a vessel designed for the rigors of winter crabbing. So you've got to keep in mind, the Scotty was designed by people who did not know the conditions. In the Bering Sea, winter crabbing in the Bering Sea for king crabs, gigantic crabs. Dreaming of a tropical cruise through sun-drenched Caribbean waters, two college seniors with summer commercial fishing experience sign on as part of a small crew delivering a boat to Seattle via the Panama Canal. What could possibly go wrong, they reasoned. With an inept, hard-partying captain and faulty mechanics, Scotty sailed into a massive Caribbean storm. They barely escaped the nightmare with their lives, and one outrageous, thrilling sea story. So Nightmare on the Scotty is out already. It's going to go on my list for tonight. I guess I'll put all this paperwork back in, and I'll just deal with I'll deal with all the paperwork down the line. So this next one, what have we got here? This is an advance copy. It'll be a $16 paperback. And it is published in mid-September. Mid-September. So this is by Stephen Schindler, and it is called Fallout Shelter. And I don't know what we have for paperwork here. Nothing. Let's see. A nuclear fallout shelter could be in a church, school, or city hall, but an abandoned fallout shelter in the basement of a Bronx apartment building became a refuge for three best friends where they could plan their dreams and their schemes throughout their lives. Chili, Mikey, and Angel scoffed at fear. Atomic bomb duck and cover drills were opportunities for mischief in darkened school hallways. Enraged nuns and priests spitting fire and brimstone were a cause for hidden hilarity. Little did they know that lurking in places reserved for the sacred, evil was hiding in plain sight. They were used to the dangers on the city streets, but they weren't prepared for the sins of the fathers. Chili risked everything to protect those he loved, and there wasn't a commandment that could stop him. So, at first, an abandoned bomb shelter, what does that mean? What will that do? Is there something maybe creepy in the bomb shelter? But it sounds like this is going to broaden out to the Catholic child rape scandal in ways that even the description on the back of the book makes it sound a little unpredictable. So I'll be reading that in September. This next one, you're going to have to pardon the big, fat, very ornate, hey, you trying to do me a favor, I think you're a thief sticker. If I have to ignore it, then you have to ignore it. Unfortunately, it obscures the cover and the author. The author is Pauline Bartel, and the book is called Gone with the Wind, 1939, Day by Day, with a huge sticker on it that's unremovable that says, hey, you're a thief. I hate you. Now, praise my book to customers who will increase my bottom line. This is exactly what it sounds like. Gone with the Wind, 1939, Day by Day, chronicles the production, premieres, and reception of the iconic film from January 1st, 1939 to December 31st, 1939. Engaging daily behind-the-scenes entries provide a snapshot of what was happening on and off the set. Sidebars sprinkled throughout the months provide insight, expert commentary about the cast, crew, and the chaos of filming and beyond. So a must-have for, for instance, a longtime fan of the movie Gone with the Wind. An absolutely must-have book. Then we'll go back to biblical scripture. We'll go back to scripture and scriptural analysis. What do we have here? This comes out on September 1st, right around the corner. This is the Book of Revolutions, not Revelations, Revolutions. The Battles of Priests, Prophets, and Kings That Birthed the Torah by Edward Feld. The famous Rembrandt painting on the cover there. Let's see here. The Torah is truly the book of revolutions. Born from a military coup, the Northern Israelite Revolution, the aftermath of an assassination in Regency, a Judean revolution, and a quiet but radical revolution affected by outsiders whose ideas proved persuasive, otherwise known as the Babylonian exile. Emerging from each of these were three legal codes: the Covenant Code, Exodus, the Deuteronomic Code, Deuteronomy, and the Holiness Code, Leviticus, which in turn shaped the Bible, biblical Judaism, and Judaism today. In dramatic historical accounts grounded in recent Bible scholarship, the author unveils the epic saga of ancient Israel as the visionary legacy of inspired authors in different times and places. Prophetic teaching and differing social realities shaped new understandings concretized by these law codes. Revolutionary biblical ideas often encountered great difficulties in their time before they triumphed. Eventually, master editors wove the threads together, intentionally preserving competing narratives and law codes. Ultimately, the Torah is an emblem of pluralistic belief born of revolutionary moments that preserve spiritual realities that continue to speak powerfully to us today. As far as the religion reading Steve goes, that is a description of paradise. That is paradise, what I just described there. September 1st means this is one of the books that I will read immediately from this new arrivals pile. There'll be a couple of others, I think. Let's go on a few more here. This next one is from the folks at Scholastic. And this is a young adult book, but those of you who are fans of Scholastic, as I am, will probably agree with me that even their books that are young adult, middle grade, that sort of thing, are so well done, usually so well chosen, so well edited, so well vetted and curated, that adults can like them. Adults can enjoy them. I fully expect to enjoy this myself. The date on this is October 4th, and this is 2 Degrees by Alan Gratz. Pretty good as photo covers go. Let's see here. Fire, ice, flood, 3 climate disasters. 4 kids fighting for their lives. Akira is riding her horse in California woods when a wildfire sparks and grows scarily fast. How can she make it to safety when there are flames everywhere? I wholeheartedly want to nod at that description until you have seen how fast a forest fire can spread. You wouldn't believe it. You just wouldn't believe it. Unfortunately, that's also a reality that is witnessed by people who have experienced how fast a house fire spreads. Oh, boy. The speed of it is always the thing. If you survive, the speed is always the thing that is your foremost impression when you come out of it at the other end. But Akira isn't the only kid we're reading about. Owen and his best friend George like spotting polar bears on the snowy Canadian tundra. But when one bear gets way too close for comfort, do the boys have any chance of surviving? Unless they've got a Humvee nearby, they don't know. And Natalie hunkers down at home as a massive hurricane barrels toward Miami. When the floodwaters crash into her house, Natalie is dragged out into the storm with nowhere to hide. And this book is the story of these kids, and also, as you can tell, the backdrop of it will be catastrophic climate change. The fact that these kinds of nightmare scenarios, I don't know so much about runaway polar bears, but the fires and floods, these kinds of things are in our future. It's no longer a question of where in the world you live. You are going to experience these things. For me, the main question about 2 Degrees will be how inexpertly it harps on that. I'm hoping that the author weaves that reality, that coming reality, that present reality, into the story in a very normal, organic way, rather than using the story as an opportunity to lecture his readers. I'm hoping that is true. Then we'll stick with kids' books. We'll do another Scholastic title. This is coming out in early September. This is Attack of the Black Rectangles by Amy Sarrid King. And there you have those are the black rectangles that the book means with its title is redacted prose. When Mac first opens his classroom copy of Jane Yolen's The Devil's Arithmetic and finds some words blacked out, he thinks it must be a mistake. But then when he and his friends discover what the missing words are, he's outraged. Someone in his school is trying to prevent kids from reading the full story. But who? Even though his unreliable dad tells him to not get so emotional about a book or anything else, Mac has been raised by his mom and granddad to call out things that are wrong. He and his friends head to the principal's office to protest the censorship, but her response doesn't take them seriously. So many adults want Mac to keep his words to himself. Mac's about to see the power of letting them out. So once again, that is a great premise. That is a fantastic idea for a book, and it will all depend, the success of it will entirely depend on whether or not the author is personally lecturing me. If I have to pass some sort of purity test snuggle session in order to read this book, I won't. But if the author is assuming that the reader is not the enemy, I swear, up until the 21st century, that would have gone without saying. I wouldn't have needed to mention it. It would have been ridiculous. Now, it's among the things you have to hope about an author is that they do not personally hate their readers. So if this book doesn't hate me, then it could be really good. If it doesn't hammer on, very didactically, on the whole idea of censorship, we shall see. Scholastic, like I mentioned, usually does a really good job, so I feel like I'm in good hands there. Then, just a few more. This next one is later. Pretty sure this is later. Yeah, early October. This is early October. This is Lincoln Perry, Seeing Like an Artist. What artists perceive in the art of others. Very nice looking thing here. It's got blurbs from Joyce Carol Oates, James Gleick, and Edmund White on the back. But I don't know what it is. I don't have a sheet for it. I've got the pub sheet. Even more blurbs. Okay, well, we can read the back like we were in a bookstore together, right? A visit to view art can be overwhelming, exhausting, and unrewarding, especially if you do it with me. And if you've ever been dragged through the Boston Museum of Fine Arts with me, exhausting especially. Lincoln Perry wants to change that. In 15 essays, each framed around a specific theme, he provides new ways of seeing and appreciating art. Perry is a disarmingly charming tour guide who makes art approachable and accessible. I'm always up for a book like this, and if you are, Seeing Like an Artist comes out in the autumn. Then we have an author. This is a novel. A lot of you will know this author. This comes out next year, January of 2023. The author is Jonathan Carroll, and this is his new book, Mr. Breakfast. Let's see here. Graham Patterson's life has hit a dead end. His career as a comedian is flailing. The love of his life broke up with him, and he has no idea what to do next. With nothing to lose, he buys a new car and hits the road, planning to drive across the country and hopefully figure out his next move before reaching California. But along the way, Patterson does something his old self would never have even considered. When, at a stopover in North Carolina, he notices a tattoo parlor with some gorgeous designs in the window, he whimsically decides to get a tattoo. The decision sets off a series of extraordinary events that will change his life forever. Among other things, Patterson suddenly finds himself gifted with the ability to see, in real time, 3 different lives that are available to him. The choice is his, the life he is leading right now, or 2 very different ones. In all of them, there is love or fame, and of course danger, because once he is chosen, there is no telling what will happen next. Again, a very entertaining premise. I don't have to worry about it for a long time. But you Jonathan Carroll fans out there will want to know this is coming out at the beginning of the new year. I won't be thinking about it because it's not a 2022 release. And then we'll finish up. At long last, we'll finish up. We'll finish up with this last one, which is a reissue from the University of Arizona Press. This is going to be a $20 paperback, and it comes out today, tomorrow. This comes out on the 30th of August, so it's due right away. It's The Desert Smells Like Rain by Gary Paul Nabhan. And it is a naturalist those are the people of the Sonora Desert, the Udum country, or the Udum people. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but that's what this is. This is all about the Sonora Desert, and is full of photographs of the Sonora Desert and the people there. So, let's see here. Published more than 40 years ago, A Desert Smells Like Rain remains a classic about how nature, how to respect it, and what transplants to the desert can learn from longtime residents of the Sonora Desert, the Tohono O'odham people. I know I'm getting that last one wrong. In this work, Gary Paul Nabhan brings, let's call them Tohono, voices to the page at every turn. He writes elegantly of how they husband scant water supplies, grow crops, and utilize wild edible foods. Woven through his account are coyote tales, Tohono children's impressions of the desert, and observations on the political problems that come with living on both sides of an international border. The author conveys the everyday life and extraordinary perseverance of these desert people. I vaguely remember this from when it first appeared, I think, but I didn't read it. So this will be a brand new experience for me. And like a couple of the other books on this pile, this goes onto the read immediately pile. I'll read tonight. Most of the books that I'm showing you here are tiny, so I will burn through them. But those are some new arrivals that I wanted you to know about. So we have The Desert Smells Like Rain. We have Mr. Breakfast, Jonathan Carroll's new novel. We have Seeing Like an Artist, a tour of great works of art designed to demystify them. We have Attack of the Black Rectangles, a scholastic young reader's novel in which school children deal with censorship. We have 2 Degrees, which I believe the title refers to the projections of global warming, which is a global warming of 2 degrees, which doesn't sound like much, but represents the total change of every biome that we know today. Then the Book of Revolutions, historical textual study of the Old Testament. Gone with the Wind, Day by Day, a sort of an insider's chronicle of all the details of this movie. Fallout Shelter, a novel about an unused fallout shelter, but also about a nightmare that is not nuclear. Then we have Nightmare on the Scotty, Sea Tale, about an overmatched king crab fishing boat. The Messiah Confrontation, why exactly was Jesus put to death, and could it have been avoided if his judges had the right religious opinions? And finally, Botticelli's Secret, in which the writer looks at the history and maybe the tangled provenance of the Dante illustrations done by Botticelli. So there you go. Those are some new arrivals for you. I think we should stop right there. I've made quite enough videos for today, so I'm going to wrap this up for now. Let me know if any of those appeal to you. And at least now you know they're coming, so you can look some of them up, put them on your hold list. Maybe for some of those ones that are down the line or a little obscure, get your library to get them. If your library is really responsive to its patrons, they might get you some. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, Brooke.